Hi everybody, we're on our last chapter in our Poston textbook, so hopefully you enjoyed our lecture. If you're relaxing and kicking back, this will be the last time that we look at this textbook. The main thing that I want you to take away from this is I realize not a lot of your school systems are using this system. They're not. These are the national standards of school finance. Like it or not, if you become faculty somewhere, this is your future. This is what you have to know. These are results-based budgeting. Difference is, it's been referred to this entire time in this book, is performance-based. But when you look at the standards say results-based budgeting. That's what this is. For me as an instructor, I want you to see this perspective because scholars are pushing for it. I don't think it's coming here, but I think it's coming here in 10 to 15 years, but not now. But that's my guess. But I really think we're going to see this notion of performance-based budgeting. Why take this approach? I mean, it's this notion of public transparency and commitment to performance-based assessment. The concern is really how education is perceived by outside stakeholders. It's just the way it is because the media is being more involved in pretty much all of our lives. Education is being more scrutinized today than it was in the past. We're in a state right now that ranks our schools from A to F. There's good in that, there's bad in that. So this is something that you have to work through, and it's one of the reasons why we do this public transparency and commitment to performance-based assessment. So what can we do to have transparency in what we do? We just have to be, you have to be open about everything, unfortunately, and that's just the way it is. The big question is superintendents that you're going to have to answer now that I wouldn't have if I would have became a superintendent way back when is where's the money going? I never would have been asked about the software that I needed to purchase. I would have said I needed 27 licenses, snapped my finger, and I would have got it. I'm sure most of you that have been in schools for 10 plus years, that's what you would have experienced. But I don't think I could get away with this now. Some districts, some districts will never have problems. They're just going to buy whatever you need. Some districts, the school board's probably going to be mad if you switch from regular traditional pencils to lead pencils. It depends on the school board. It depends on the district. It really depends on all that. So, how do you evaluate? How do you know that the budget is benefiting the students and it's benefiting the stakeholders? What do you do? We all have different approaches for this. This is why in your team, you need to determine what the evaluation looks like. It's not what I say, it's not what anybody else says, it's what the team determines. So we're going to look at some evaluation indicators that can help you justify what that procedure looks like. So there are 4 universally accepted standards on program evaluation. And this is program evaluation, not just budgeting evaluation. This is what a program evaluation should look like. Utility standards, feasibility standards, propriety standards, and accuracy standards. So for utility standards, assure that an evaluation will serve the information needs of its intended users. Write in accordance to what your people want to be able to read. This is something that is lost in schools quite frequently, and it's lost on academics as well, too. You need to write in a clear manner, but at an 8th grade level. You need to assume that the people that you're writing for can read, can understand, but also aren't at the level that you're at. My advice is think like you're writing for a newspaper. That's how a newspaper is written, right? So that's what your utility standards should look like. Feasibility standards, your evaluations need to be realistic, prudent, diplomatic, and frugal. I keep saying human, 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 human. You're in a human profession. That's important in education. So you're dealing with people in a human industry. You can't forget that. So propriety standards, you have to be legal and ethical. Everything needs to be confidential until final decisions are made, especially personnel decisions. I'm living through an example right now in my home district that I've mentioned in class and I've mentioned in the video, and people are watching this a year from now, a year from 2015, for a lecture. Just know that the district that I'm from back in Pennsylvania recently decided to cut all of its library staff. And the library staff, I don't think, knew what was going on for the cut. until it came out in the newspaper. So the backlash led to 500 people at a school board meeting all wearing Save Our Library shirts. And it's all over the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, and I'm watching that, and it was uninformed stakeholders that didn't understand what the cuts looked like. The cuts weren't costing anybody jobs. They were moving library teachers out of the library and into the classroom and giving classroom teachers more flexibility over library control. Not one person was losing their job, but it wasn't framed that way and it wasn't spun that way, so it's turned into, you know, we're cutting this program, we're cutting our personnel, and that was not the case. So you have to make sure that personnel decisions are handled in a fair and ethical manner. So you have to be accurate. When you spend over on something, what my advisor Pitt used to say is you get one. You get one oops. You get one oops where you can spend over, and if you've not been accurate in an estimate, that's your one oops. Once you do your one oops, it's over. Make sure that you're spending and you're accurate on what you're supposed to spend. So 6 to 12 months after a program is completed, the key stakeholders should write an evaluation report. This gives teeth to the work that you've done, and it also says what went right and what went wrong. Please look at what I wrote, because the book kind of said this differently. The book said you need to document all of your successes. I think you need to document your failures too on here, because it shows we spent on X, Y, and Z, and Y didn't need all this money, and X and Z were underfunded. It shows, number one, a human side, and it shows, number two, that you're willing to make hard decisions and say when something doesn't work. I don't think people like to be sugar-coated. I think when you evaluate people or you evaluate programs, you can't just say everything is awesome. That doesn't work. You have to basically tell people when something goes right and something goes wrong, and you have to document it. And that's important, and you need to make sure that happens in an evaluation report. So what do? You ask, how effective was the program? How have the components of the program affected the quality of the school system? What has it done? How was the cost? Was the value there? Do you continue it? Do you modify it? Do you expedite it? Or do you terminate it? So that's another important consideration as well, and that's kind of the abandonment stuff that we've been talking about. You need a stakeholder survey as well, and this is normally found in the evaluation instrument. I believe you design this early on in the process. That's another thing too that I've kind of added in. You design this even before you actually implement the budget. That way everybody knows what the evaluation tool is up front. That makes the evaluation more efficient and effective. And you can change the system if something didn't necessarily work or stakeholders had concerns or issues with it, and that's perfectly fine as well. So some key ideas, who should be there. I think only members of the budget team should complete the evaluation form, and you need to do it anonymously. Remember what I said in class. I can speak to only 2 different protocols. I know Qualtrics and SurveyMonkey stay confidential. I've seen ones that don't, but I can, in my position, I can speak that I know those 2 do. So if you are using an online medium, that's the one that I would do. I would also not address people by title, because if somebody addressed the Ed Leadership Department at Oklahoma State, there's 4 of us, so would probably be able to figure out who it was. I feel like you have to make sure that multiple people see and evaluate the program and evaluate the evaluation form, because one person doing it could make a bias, and then you distribute results to everybody and the key administrative leaders. So that's it. My key from this is something that may help you. I don't have as much, I don't want to say faith or confidence in this as I do the other books we looked at, but this is something that's a national standard. It is not going anywhere. My opinion is, a lot of you are young. You're young in your careers. I'm young in my career. Because of that, this is going to be here. It's coming down the pipeline. I think Oklahoma's 5 years at the least away from this. 15, around 10 to 15 is more realistic. But I think you're going to see this, and I think you're going to see more tied to budgeting and more tied to results-based. And my hope for all of you is that it's not just standardized tests, because you need something that actually talks about program feasibility, program accomplishments, impact on students, impact on learning, impact on satisfaction. That's why I like criteria like the Baldrige criteria. I think that's more effective, and I think that actually works. So that would be my advice as you look at these chapters. Of the 3 books, since we're talking ranking, this is probably for all of you, this is the least important of the books. I would put the Guthrie one first if you know you're going to work in a smaller district, and I would put the Brimley one first if you know you're going to work in a larger district. But this one could help you, this one may help you, and I think that's what that's about. So thank you very much.